And and this is a kid who his mom will tell you he never cries. And he started to cry. Give you a perfect example. Well, it would be it's so layered. Every time I engage with someone, it's so layered because I see all these different little puzzle pieces. But a young man, one of our clients, he got in trouble at school yesterday, and it was something pretty serious. And so his mom called me, and I said, "Hey, I'm in a meeting, but I'm going to wrap up, and I'll meet you there." She said, "Okay." So I got there first. I went in. Saw him sitting there, and this is a young man I don't even know that well. We've spent a little bit of time together, but not a lot of time. As a parent coach, I'm more of a parent coach. Like, I don't engage with kids a lot, and when I do, it's usually through their parents because I feel like that is the most important relationship, not my relationship with the kid. So I sat down with him, and I said, "Hey, buddy, how are you?" And he's not saying anything, and he shrugs his shoulders, and then he stands up to look out the window, see if his mom's coming. He sits back down, and his anxiety is so high. And so I start breathing. I said, "You're having a stressful time, huh?" And he stands up again. Oh, he's so anxious. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, I put my hand on his back. And I rubbed his back and I said, "You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." I said, "I know you're feeling scared. It's gonna be okay." And I mean, within seconds, his anxiety significantly dropped, and he put his head down, and and this is a kid who his mom will tell you he never cries. And he started to cry, and oftentimes when we are not used to crying, it overwhelms us. And so he started to really sob, and he put his hoodie over his head, and I just rubbed his back, and I said, "You're going to be okay. You're going to go home. Everything's going to be all right." And he just melted into that dynamic. But I know most people don't see that. Yeah. Most people don't see that anxiety. They don't see that fear. They don't realize that in that moment, that boy who's 13 years old, his greatest fear is that he's going to be sent away from his home because he's had those experiences before. So it didn't matter what he had done. And so luckily I was there. The sheriffs were called because it was a pretty serious event. And we went into the principal's office, and he still had his hoodie pulled up over his face. And so they came in, and I told him before they walked in, I said, "They might be a little tough." I said, "But we need to get on through this little conversation. We'll be okay." And
because that must help him too, like that forewarning of what's coming.
Yes.
So that it doesn't surprise.
Give him a little predictability. And so the police officers come in, and they were willing to listen to what I had to say. So I helped them understand kind of who this kid is, which we don't oftentimes get that opportunity. No. But if you can come from an understanding, and I really try to teach this as, it's kind of my whole platform. If you can come from an understanding of seeing people as operating from fear and not operating from anger or control or manipulation, it changes the way your own amygdala perceives them. If my amygdala is not perceiving you as a threat, my whole physiology changes. Yeah. If my amygdala is seeing you as manipulative or defiant, if the police officer says, "Hey buddy," because I told the kid too, I said, "He's gonna want you to take your hoodie off." And the kid couldn't. He felt ashamed. He felt overwhelmed. He felt he was in survival. Right. And I try to tell people, and one of my...
Tell us about that survival. What is survival mode? And so, you mentioned that sometimes you don't have a conscience in survival mode.
You can't. So what does that
mean though? I still don't understand what the heck that means.
And this is the limitation to any, and I've been saying this for a number of years now, even in my lectures. The limitation of a lecture is that it's a cognitive experience. Everything we're talking about is emotional. And emotion is an energy, it's not words. And so we use words, but words are really limited to the true experience of what we're feeling. When you become stressed, your cellular system constricts into survival. Survival means survival. It means all I can do right now is focus on what's going to make me feel like I am not going to die. What's going to make me feel like I will feel better. What's going to help me in this moment feel like I have some control over my life, that nothing bad's going to happen. It literally means survival.
And it's whatever that one thing is to whoever it is.
Whatever it is.
That's going to make me, so that's the only thing I can focus on.
And when you're talking about, adopted children or traumatized adults, survival is that stress. Again, I want people to remember that amygdala perceives that stress in this present moment. But what it's doing is it's actually turning on the brainstem, and it's connecting to those old trauma memories, those old trauma experiences. That's what becomes the reality. And so the amygdala hijacking, back to that, is not really that there's anything that threatening in this present moment. It's that you've experienced something in the past, and that's what is showing, like that's what you're thinking is going on. That's what you're feeling is going on. And when someone's really been amygdala has really experienced an amygdala hijacking, they can only function as a byproduct of that emotional experience. They're not functioning in this moment. And so the police officer said to the kid, I need you to take your hoodie down. And he couldn't. So the kid can't. Most adults don't see that.
Right.
We like to say he's just being defiant.
Right.
He's freaking trying to survive. And so he talked to him a little bit more. I said, sir, what's going on with him right now is he's overwhelmed and he's turtling. And so he can't just come out,
right,
but he can hear you. And the police officer, the sheriff, he said, I need you to at least shake your head that you hear me. He said, can you do that?
Was that a good thing for him to say?
It was fantastic because the kid shook his head.
Aww.
And then, so what's happening is the sheriff is actually removing the threat. You can see the kid starts to feel less threatened because he actually puts one eye out of the hoodie, and the sheriff bends down so he can look at him. And then it worked out fine, and the day we went on. But it's that in that moment we are looking at one another, and this is human behavior. We're looking at one another. We're looking at kids as doing something intentional, and it's not. We are in survival.
Let's fast forward. If that child then becomes an adult and they still haven't dealt with those issues, potentially a parent now.
Same thing.
Yeah, they're in that same space. It's not like they've grown past it because they haven't.
That is the essence of what I have been working with and on for 20 years. As parents, we are just kids grown up. We have the same reactions, we have the same overwhelm, we have the same experience that we had as kids. We've just grown up, and now we do the same thing we did when we were kids. It is in your brain, it is in your body, it is who you are. And until, it may take you being 72 years old. I worked with a couple just the other night in their 70s because of their son who's 18. 70 years old before they realize that the patterns that they are still working through today started when they were 9 and 6 years old.
Yeah.
I worked with a mom just the other day. She's 40 years old and just for the first time realized what she experienced between 5 and 9, she has still carried it into her life as a 40-year-old mother.